Malcolm, good morning to you.
How are you doing, Gerry?
This is your email here, isn't it? The hi diddly I dum diddle dum.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic. You're listening from?
Adelaide, South Australia.
Adelaide in South Australia, listening on the internet. And we think fairly large audience listening on the internet over the last, I think, 2 years. It's increasing. So good morning to all of you listening on the internet. We're absolutely delighted and welcome. Good to have you. Right, let's have a look at these extraordinary. And they are. That first one, I mean, what is it? Do you want to recite it for me? The hi diddly idle dum.
I'll tell you what, I'll give it a go. All right. It's called Hey Diddle Dum.
Yeah.
And it's Hey Diddle Dum, the cat and his mother. They went to Galway, riding a drake. It's Hey Diddle, Diddle Do, Hey Diddle Dum. Hey Diddle Dum, it started to rain. The cat and his mother, they nearly drowned. It's Hey Diddle, Diddle Do, Hey Diddle Dum.
Well, it's got to say, kind of a ring to it, kind of nice cadence to it. But what does it mean?
Exactly.
I mean, for instance, we know what ring-a-ring-a-rosy, a pocket full of posy, a tissue, they all... We know that's a reference to the plague, you know, and they all fall down. This is the children dying, you know, and we know what that is. And the ring-a-ring-a-rosy was the markings that you got on you during that. So that's explainable. But this, way out of my league, I have to tell you. I like me mother has gone to church. Right, I'll do this one, right? Ahem. Me mother has gone to church. She told me not to play with you because you're in the dirt. It isn't because you're dirty. It isn't because you're clean. It's because you have the whooping cough and eat margarine.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Well, I think that's an attack on working class children. That's what I think that one is. What about Carrion Crow? Carrion Crow sat on an oak. Will you do that one for me?
No, I'll let you do that one.
Okay, you ready? Here we go. A carrion crow sat on an oak. Sing hi-ho the carrion crow, faldy-riddle, faldy-diddle, faldy-riddle, hiding-do. Watching a sailor shape his coat, sing hi-ho the carrion crow, faldy-riddle, faldy-riddle, hiding-do. Wife, bring me old bent bow. Sing hi-ho the carrion crow, faldy-riddle, loldy-riddle, hiding-do. That I may shoot you, carrion crow, sing hi-ho the carrion crow, faldy-riddle, loldy-riddle, hiding-do. The tailor shot and he missed his mark, sing hi-ho the carrion crow, faldy-riddle, loldy-riddle, hiding-do. And shot his own son right through the heart, sing hi-ho the carrion crow, faldy-riddle, long-ding-do.
Well done.
It's a sad tale, that one. That's a fellow who went out to shoot a crow and shot his son, isn't it?
Yeah, well, excuse me.
I think. Where did you get these from, Malcolm?
I got them off the internet.
Yeah?
You know, I was just doing a quick search, looking for a couple of Irish nursery rhymes, and sadly enough, I came up with these three.
Well, they're good. They're very different. And what was the purpose of looking for these?
Myself and my wife, we're having our first child now.
Great.
Up, and we were having a bit of an Aussie barbecue, and we're thinking of a couple of games to play. And what we were going to do is have a call my bluff, and everybody has a nursery rhyme to call out, and hopefully somebody can pick the Irish one. Now the problem was, I came up with these three Irish ones, and I don't think anybody would believe it.
Well, what about Wheeler Wheeler While Ya? That'd be a good one, wouldn't it?
Well, it would, because I think everybody knows that one, though.
Oh, yeah, it'd be too easy, would it?
Yeah, exactly,
I used to particularly enjoy the violence of it. That's too easy. You need something that's just a little harder. Okay, a couple of good Irish nursery rhymes to help them here with Call My Bluff. And get them to us now by email would be the best way. And we'll pass them on to you, grs@rte.ie. Good idea, Malcolm, by the way, and a great way to celebrate. And good morning, Sydney. Or is it Melbourne?
It's Adelaide.
Adelaide. Didn't get out of them right. I knew it was somewhere down there, mate. Good morning. Keep listening.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Heather, good morning.
Hello?
Nursery rhymes. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
You're 10 years of age and you're on your midterm break, aren't you?
Yeah.
You lucky woman. You lucky woman. Did you watch Childline yesterday?
No,
what? You didn't? Are you mad? They were all on it. Everybody was on it. Shane Ward, McFly. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, you heard us talking about nursery rhymes earlier on, and we're trying to get together a collection of them to send to a fellow who listens on the internet to the Gerry Ryan Show down in Adelaide in Australia, because himself and his wife are expecting a baby and they want to have a bit of fun with nursery rhymes when the baby comes along. I think the plan is part of the shower or part of the party. Now, you have one for me that you can actually sing yourself, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the name of it?
I'm not really sure. I think it's something about a ducky's mother.
A ducky's mother. Okay, off you go in your own time. This maybe should have been considered for the Eurovision. Off you go.
No, it's nothing big. I'm just hearing this classical music, okay?
Okay, where you go.
Hi, diddle dum, on got the savo, here, then me go, gale, beg, ma, hit the water, then me go, gale, beg, ma, hit the water. Yes, I diddle do, hi, diddle dum. Hi, diddle dum, look a solly, go, Buddha, the dida, no, what's what we could tear. Go, Buddha, the dida, no, what's what we could tear. Yes, I diddle do, hi, diddle dum. Hi, diddle dum, ha, cootie, the net of Jolin, the gross test, moaning, is care, shuck, Jolin, the gross test, moan, is care, shuck, is I diddle do, hi, diddle dum.
Fantastic. That was brilliant. Where did you learn that?
Diddle.
Very good. Well, that's very good. You're a singing family, obviously. You're all born with talent. You came into the world with talent. I think that's really it, isn't it? What are you going to do for the rest of the day? Because I know that the Den are having a midterm week. Are you going to be going out to play? Are you going to be watching the telly or listening to the radio?
No, I'm actually in the Kerry School of Music and I'm doing something about the High School Musical.
Oh, good. So you're working
Yeah.
as a professional performer.
Well,
Good
no,
girl.
not really.
Well, we'll call it that for today, okay? I think you're brilliant. Okay, well done, Heather. Take a big bow, right? Are you taking it now as I'm speaking to you? Good girl. Okay, bye. Oh, yeah, there was a lot of singing and dancing in my house yesterday. I can tell you there was no holding back. Laura, good morning to you.
Hi.
How are you? Okay, you've been listening this morning. What do you make of this report from the United States?
Well, I basically think that, like, it's their own choice. The dancers, they want to dance. They're being paid to dance.
Yeah, this is referring particularly to the kind of thing that you'll see on MTV Base, where you've got the big fat black guy with the chains and the baseball cap turned round, and the songs, you know, either about guns, shooting some fella who lives around the corner, are about doing a selection of different things to a selection of different girls. He's surrounded them by the best looking girls you've ever seen in your entire life, in their hot pants, and is it real? I mean, what do you think? You're a 15-year-old girl, but what do you think a 15-year-old boy thinks when he looks at that?
Well, a 15-year-old boy obviously loves, like, looking at that kind of stuff. But, like, if the rappers are promoting all this kind of stuff, but they're only, like, living up to their expectations. People think that they're going to do that, so they may as well do that.
But do you think it's realistic to say that the 15-year-old boy will look at it? Do you think this is real? Do you think this actually happens? That he'll look at it and he'll go, brilliant, if I leave school, if I don't get any education, if I celebrate gun culture, and if I speak about women as if they're nothing but for sex, this is going to happen to me. These women with their hot pants and their fantastic cleavage and their incredible sexiness, they will be tripping over my doorstep to get in at me.
Well, they're making it out to be realistic. All the rappers are making it out that this is going to happen, but they shouldn't be promoting this kind of stuff. I don't agree with promoting, like, women dancing around with nothing on and promoting gun crime and all that kind of stuff. But I like the music, like, I won't, like, deny it. I do actually like the music, but I don't agree with what, like, they're doing to make money and all that kind of stuff. Like.
Now, you know, obviously there's fellas and there's girls, you know, in the group that you hang around with, right?
Yeah.
Now, do the boys watch MTV Base? Do they like that kind of music? Do they watch rap?
Well, they wouldn't really be watching videos so much. They'd be more listening to it on the radio, doing, like, their own
Are they not sitting down there with the YouTube and getting all the videos and going online? No?
I don't really know what to get up to in their spare time, but I don't think they'd really be into kind of like getting these videos down. They'd be more into like football and stuff. But like
And do you ever talk, if they like rap music, if they like 50 Cent, for instance, do you...
Oh yeah, they'd be going around singing it like to themselves.
Singing it to themselves.
Everybody would be like singing it.
But do you girls ever talk to them about it? Do you ever say, well, you know, that's not very nice, it doesn't depict girls in a nice way, or do you care?
Well, like, we don't really talk about like what they like do in the videos. We talk about the music themselves. We don't really pay much attention. We don't like that kind of aspect to it. Like, it's demeaning to girls, like.
But would you actually say that to them?
Well, if we ever actually got talking about it properly, we would. We'd stick up for, like, girls and the way that they're being, like, put out.
Well, one 16-year-old girl who texted in there just a few minutes ago, she said, look, I like the music and I wouldn't mind looking like some of the girls in the videos, but it is demeaning, particularly to black women. And particularly to young American black women. And I think it's a very negative impression that's given, and it's a bad message to young, particularly young white boys, you know, here in Ireland, if they think that they behave like this and this is what they get and this is what women should be expected to deliver. Does that ever come up?
Well,
or could you give a damn?
Well, we really don't like care about that kind of stuff in school. Like, we've more better things to be talking about, and like there's way more things happening like around where we are than talking about that kind of thing. I don't like. It is mostly young black women that they have in the video.
Oh yeah, there's very few white girls in there, that's for sure, and they'll say that's because the white girls can't dance.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. Like, but I don't know. Like, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't like to look like them, because like I would like to be to have their bodies and everything. But I'm happy with the way I am, and I don't think they should be perceiving like that everybody should look like that in the videos. They shouldn't really have young black women dancing around them with nothing on. I don't like that kind of thing.
But you do like the music.
Yeah, the music is good.
Now, and now, of course, the worst scenario, because I can remember when I was your age, the worst thing that could possibly happen was when the adults started talking about what you were listening to or looking at, because you were fine once they didn't know what was going on. Now they're talking about it on the radio, and your mammy or your daddy's going to come in and go, what's that? Have you got a 50 Cent album there?
Yeah.
What? Let me listen to it there for a moment. And this is what he's going to hear.
Get out the club, bitch. Niggas trying to holler at you.
Here's a text. My God, how ridiculous is this? I'm 16. I grew up with Barbies and Disney movies, and I'm totally fine. I still love Disney, but videos can make young girls feel insecure. Liking rap music is a put-off in a fella, as far as I'm concerned. Audrey, good morning.
Good morning, Gerry. How are you?
Welcome to my world.
Well, it sounds a wonderful word.
Won't you come on in? Miracles you see happen now and then. That's just for you.
I'll be ringing up a few more times.
Now, you're a transition year coordinator, and you were listening to Greg Dalton yesterday. Was it all pipe dream? Was it hot air, or did it make sense?
Well, parts of what he's saying did make sense, all right, but it seemed a bit general, and I suppose it's easy to make generalisations. I just felt a wee bit enamoured about what he said in relation to their work experience placements. Having worked with students in getting them placements. Stop it. I have a little puppy here and she's going mad.
What's she doing to you?
She's chewing my slipper.
Poodle bites. Come
but
on,
anyway,
Frenchie.
I would have encouraged students to find their placements in conjunction with the research they've done on careers. Now, obviously, there's always...
But does that actually happen? I mean, most of my experience, whether I'm on the receiving end of requests to give people job placements, is, you know, somebody's dad knows, somebody's mother knows, somebody's dad, and then, you know, you end up usually in completely inappropriate environments. Now, we've had a couple of kids who come through this office here, and I have to say, one or two of them were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I know when I was coordinating... One or two of them were absolutely cretinous. Yeah, 2FM would run... Basically, they allow you to send up the names of 2 students per year. Yeah. That's basically what you do. But what we would do is actually literally get out a phone book. Let's say it was an architect they were interested in. And to look at the local architects in the town and try them and see which gave them the best response, which one talked about giving them, you know, chores to do, tasks to do during the week, to explain about how they got into it, how they trained up, what you needed to get into it, what subjects they had at Leaving Cert. So when the student is there, they're really at a fact-finding mission as well as experience in the whole workplace. So I agree with you. It's not the same in every school, and that's because TY is sort of specific to every school, and every school designs their own programme. Now, I myself had done transition year, which was unique.
Also, the level of supervision of the work experience programme seems to be honest, in a lot of the schools I've looked at, fairly low grade. I mean, the fact that the child has managed to get down to the local SuperValu to pack bags for a week seems to do a lot of them.
Well, for a week, packing bags for a week, I just don't know. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that kind of job.
No, I mean, it does teach you that you've got to get out, you've got to get to the place, you've got to be reliable, you can't walk out in the middle of it. It does teach you a few basics, but it's not connected to the game plan.
Yes, well, that's what I would say, is when you have your transition year, you need to connect your careers with your work experience.
Yeah.
Very, very succinctly. The two of them have to go hand in hand.
And should that necessarily be as big a deal, as big a challenge, as difficult as some people seem to make it out? See, I think
it's very easy.
But I think an awful lot of them just leave it until the last minute. I think that seems to be the problem.
Well, if you plan ahead, and this is where, because I did transition year myself, I know the value of it, what you can get out of it. And I mean, becoming a coordinator was great in the fact that you could actually tie in the careers with the work experience, make sure that they were planning and researching around careers they should try. And when they were going on work experience, they were keeping the diary, they were finding out about what courses you could do to get into this career. Then they could come back to the school and find out how many points they needed, what subjects they needed, all that kind of thing. So when they were heading into fifth year, they knew their subject choices. You know, they were informed. And,
you know, you're the coordinator of the transition year in your school, okay?
Well, I was.
Are you aware? Now, did you ask for a report from the companies and the various different offices and businesses that actually took on your students?
Oh, yes. Each student had to have a report back from the workplace. Now, what they had to fill in was things like punctuality, initiative, willingness to learn, etc. And then there was an area for general comment. And, you know, it was very informative to me as regards the student and, you know, whether they were suited to that. It actually gave great praise to the student themselves. They got to look at it as well. Obviously, if things that were lacking, like maybe communication skills weren't so good, that's an impetus on ourselves in the school to work on as well with the pupil. So the feedback was very good. They had to do an evaluation on it themselves as well. You know, to look back every night after their work experience and see how they got on.
Yeah, because I particularly like the guys coming off the communications courses, and they couldn't communicate with Jesus Christ if he came down and stood in front of them. I mean, and the hairs come down, you know, the sort of... the human league hairstyle down the front. And you're looking, you're going, what course are you studying again there, son? Communications. And who exactly are you communicating with? Yoda?
Well, actually, it's physically making them sit down, pick up the phone and ring an employer and ask them for a placement. And it's a wonderful experience for them. They're shaking in their boots and they're wondering, what will I say? But when they get on the phone, it's, I'm from, I want, you know what I mean? It's great for them. It's confidence boosting.
And would you sit over them while they were doing that?
Oh, yeah.
That must have been excruciatingly embarrassing.
No, really it wasn't, because, you know, you're encouraging them the whole time, and really the best does come out in them when they're under pressure like that.
All right, what are you doing now, if that was what you were doing before?
I've started my own business, so I'm a businesswoman now. Yeah.
What is your business?
Well, I'm not going to go into it just at the minute because it's not fully on the road.
Is it not?
But it's in finance, put it that way.
Okay, well, good for you.
Yeah.
Well done, girl.
But I have to ring the praises of transition year. I have to say, if the right person's in there with the right ideas behind it, it can be a wonderful year.
So far, the only thing that I've seen that would convince me was worth having was the fact that the boy in question grew up quite a lot during it. After that, I think it was hokum. Anyway, Audrey, lovely talking to you. The best of luck with that business.
And you too, Gerry.
Okay.
Take care.
God bless.
Thanks for talking to me.
Robin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry.
How are you? You were listening to the programme. You're 16 years of age, and you were listening this morning from under your duvet, where you should be, and you're in transition year.
Yeah.
Now, how is it going, first of all, for you? Are you enjoying it, first of all?
Oh, yeah, I'm enjoying it immensely.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, it's a very good thing.
Okay. What are you doing?
Well, at the moment, I'm at home, and I was upstairs, and I woke up, and I just decided to switch on the radio and listen to you.
And the transition year, what have they given you in terms of, you know, we were talking about there that if it's focused and if you can link, for instance, your work experience, to the jobs, to the subject choices, giving you some idea of the kind of job environment that you might end up working in. It is helpful. It can kind of give you a sense of whether you're going to like that sort of structure. You know, we were talking about some people, will they be able to work within a closed, strict office environment? Will others need to be out and about? These are decisions that you can make at this point. Have you done that?
Well, Gerry, I'm going on work experience next month for 2 weeks, and I'm going to 2 different places.
What are you doing?
I'm going to do a week with my ballet teacher. I'm going to be learning how to teach children ballet, because I do ballet myself. And then I'm going to spend another week down in my local radio station. And these 2 things that I'm doing, they don't really coincide with what I want to do.
Well, what do you want to do?
Now, you might laugh a little bit when I say this, but I want to do psychology.
Why would I laugh at that?
Many people.
It's a fantastic idea. It's a wonderful discipline, and psychology, and indeed the clinical end of it in psychiatry. It's a vastly under-resourced discipline in this country, in particular. Incredibly interesting in its academic study, and you go out there and do a lot of very interesting research and some very practical clinical work. You could do a lot of good out there. It's a great idea. Fantastic. Now, tell me, how does going into your local radio station, or indeed teaching ballet, how's that going to help you there?
Well,
understand that.
I thought that with teaching ballet, I thought it might help me interact with people a little bit more. It's not just interacting with the children when it comes to ballet, it's also interacting with their parents and learning how to deal with their parents as well, being polite, being courteous, and of course, being nice to the children as well, and, just kind of, connecting with children, and hopefully maybe when I'm doing psychology, I might get to work with children.
Well, I suppose that's a good stab at learning the basics of, turning up in a job that involves interacting with people. However, is there, for instance, a psychiatric hospital or one of the public hospitals that has a psychiatric wing to it near you? Is there a university with a psychology department?
Well, unfortunately for me, Gerry, I live in Roscommon, which is literally the back of Beyond. Yeah. And the nearest thing that I'd have to me would be the Athlone IT. And Athlone IT, I think it's going to expand into a university, but within my reach, I wouldn't be able to do a course there.
And have you relatives in any of the bigger cities that you could have gone to for a fortnight?
Yeah, I do. I've got relatives living up in Dublin, and I've got relatives living in Northern Ireland as well.
But would it not have been a better idea to kind of just cast your net a little further afield and be a bit more sort of challenging and see could you get yourself into one of the many private practices that psychiatrists have, or the clinics that are attached to hospitals? And then, of course, we do have psychiatric hospitals that have psychology departments. There are psychology departments in the various universities. I mean, who was guiding you when you were making this decision?
I guess for the last few years, it just came up in my mind that I liked working with people and I liked helping people.
Well, by the way, Robin, what you're doing is better than nothing.
Yeah, it is. It really is. As I've researched the subject a lot, and I had a lot of help from my career guidance teacher.
Good.
And it just helped so much. I researched all the courses, I researched the points requirements, the career choice requirements. But in some ways, the only thing that I found most frustrating about deciding on this was the fact that the pressure is put on in TY that you have to decide your subject choices within the space of a very short amount of time. So you have to know what you want to do in fifth year, and you have to know...
But do you know that? Have you figured that out now, have you? What you need?
I'm still a little bit unsure, and that's the truth.
And where would you go now? If you want to study psychology, for instance, do you know the difference between psychology and psychiatry?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, psychology is mainly the study of the mind, and it's the study of emotional matter. Mm-hmm. But psychiatry, if you were going to go into psychiatry, it's more of dealing with people...
The clinical application of that knowledge.
Clinical application in hospitals, etc.
Now, so where would you go to learn to do that? And what would you have to do? What courses would you have to get under your belt first? Do you go directly to it? Would you have to do a science course? Do you have to do a medical course? What do you have to do to get there? Have you found that out yet?
Well, there's two places I mainly want to go, and I'm crazy for saying it, but I just would really love to be able to achieve the points and to go to Trinity. I could do an undergraduate course there.
Girl, go to Trinity if you can get into Trinity. I spent 6 of the most wonderful years of my life there.
It's a big like dream of mine just to go.
Mind you, I was in need of a psychiatrist towards the end of it, but no, you'd love Trinity. You know why? Because it's still got that kind of et in Arcadia, ergo, as you walk through the hallowed portals, you enter another world. One hopes that some of that's been maintained over the last decade or so. But I loved the place. I loved it. I met a whole host of new friends. It literally reeked of study and exploration and excitement and discovering new things. Socially, it was absolutely fantastic. It's a beautiful place to be when the spring comes. There's a couple of gorgeous gardens you can sit down and read. I loved the antiquity of the lecture halls. I loved the buttery. If you were in rooms there, it was fantastic. It was like going back in time in Oxford or Cambridge. It's just a great place to be. And if you can get there, Robin, go.
Yeah, I'd really love to.
Go,
it's
girl.
My main goal.
I used to kind of go in there, right, on a Monday, and I wouldn't leave until Saturday afternoon. It was another little world. I loved it. I absolutely adored it. Okay, you sound like you kind of know where you're going. You've looked at the kind of points that might be needed to get into Trinity to do that, yeah?
Yeah, I have.
Are they attainable for you?
Well, they are attainable for me, but it takes a lot of work, and not all students who, get the points are accepted, which is unfortunate in some cases. But my parents just think if I work hard enough, I can achieve it.
Well, make it your dream, okay?
Yeah.
And I recall that any time we've had Brian Mooney in here talking about your CAO application form, when it comes to your leaving certificate, if you've picked out the right subjects in the first place, remember there may be some specific requirements in relation to studying psychology. Make your dream your number one choice and go for it, work for it, and good luck to you.
Exactly. Thanks, Gerry.
Take care, girl.
Thanks, Gerry.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Darren, good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine, you?
Father, how am I? That's a very polite young man. I'm very well. Thank you for asking.
I was going to talk about, do you know that episode where they're all in the lingerie section, all the priests?
Where the priests are in the lingerie section of where?
They went into the inland and they were shopping for Christmas.
That's right. They were in a department store.
Yeah.
I remember it well. Why did you think that was funny?
Well, when the priest got slung in the eye with a bra and he started crying.
That's always funny when a priest gets slung in the eye with a bra, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't see it all that often.
Yeah, no.
Do you like Father Ted, do you?
Yeah.
And how old are you?
12.
Okay. I think that's very good news, because that means that Father Ted will live on generation after generation after generation. And Wi-Fi wheeze may come and go, but Father Ted will go on forever.
Yeah.
And is the lingerie episode your favourite one?
I wouldn't say so.
No, what is your... I have to say the Eurovision one is my favourite.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
I absolutely adore it. Did you have a good week away from school?
Oh, yeah, midterm break.
Did you do anything interesting?
No, not really.
Just chilled, did nothing.
Oh, yeah.
We should have sent you out the boys' book on how to be the best at everything. That would have been good for you. Anything else you want to say to the nation?
No thanks.
It's your last chance. This may never come again.
Okay. Well, could I say hi to my Auntie Fran?
This guy's a decent skin, isn't it? He could have said something ridiculous. You might have said poo, for instance, and that would have annoyed some of the listeners. Some people have just phoned in and said that they're very worried about us saying poo in front of children. That might corrupt you. All right, Darren, you have a good weekend and enjoy all that's on offer in the last few days of your midterm break. Okay.
Okay.
What's happened here? Les, good morning to you. How are you?
How are you?
Very good. You're another Father Ted fan too.
Aye.
Little older than 12, possibly.
A little bit. 28.
Yeah. Okay.
Father Brennan.
Bishop Brennan.
Kicking him up the arse, yeah?
Kicking Bishop Brennan up the arse, yeah.
I think they actually had a little picture of him painted on the skirting board.
That's right.
And he bent down to have a look, and then Ted came over and kicked him. I'm nearly sure that's how they done it.
You think Ted did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been. I can't remember.
It wasn't Dougal.
It wasn't Dougal, no. Well, I mean, when you think about it, Dougal almost never did any of those things.
No, Dougal was just set them all up.
Yeah, Dougal set them up, and Dougal led poor old Ted.
He did, yeah.
Like a lamb to the slaughter.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what used to happen. You know, God.
That was the way it was.
It's become a bit like Faulty Towers as well. I mean, there weren't even all that many Father Teds, and yet they're repeated ad nauseum and have become part.
It's even better than Faulty Towers.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with you, I have to say. All right, Les, thank you for that. Dave, good morning to you. Hello, Dave. Line 3 seems to be sort of disappearing. Have you noticed that? Interesting. Neve, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry.
How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Very good. Now, Father Ted?
I love Father Ted.
Good.
Just wanted to tell you, the Brandy Grace character was Father Fenton Stack.
Are you Neve, are you?
Hello?
Hello? Who's that? Who am I talking to?
Neve.
Neve, all right, that's okay. I thought for a moment somebody else come on the line. Father who?
Father Fenton Stack.
Father Fenton Stack. Remind me of which episode that was.
It was the one where Jack got infected with the hairy hands, and he had to go off to
home
for elderly priests.
And Brendan Grace played it brilliantly.
The jungle music, yeah.
Yeah, I know, it was fantastic. Okay, right, thank you for reminding us of that. Is Dave back or gone? Who knows? Yes, could be there. Hello, Dave, are you there?
Hello, Gerry.
Lost you for a moment there, Dave. Your favourite?
I think when Bishop Brendan gets to kick up the arse is one of the classics. There are classics. I'm a huge Ted fan, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that time when there was a dancing priest? He was dancing around and Father Ted borrowed his car for the raffle?
No, I don't remember that.
He had a raffle and he had to get the church hall fixed up.
Yeah. And
he sent it to £1 a go. And Father Dougal had the ticket number 11, you know. He's playing that song in a ghost town.
Oh, from the specials?
Yeah, do you remember that one now?
No, I don't. But I obviously, you know, it gives an indication of my mental well-being at any given time throughout the last few years, because some of the episodes are very, very clear and some of them not so clear at all.
It's a classic one, and Ted pulled out tickets number 11, you know.
Yeah.
And Dougal hadn't a clue, as you know. His tickets 2 planks. And what actually happened was there was a fella on and he had a gambling problem, and he bought $2,000 worth of tickets.
Yeah.
And he's going demented, and he ran into a room with Father Jack, and Jack drank all the supplies of drink, you know, man. It's a classic. You should, I forget the name of the one it's called, you know.
Well, we'll look into that. Okay, good man. Aaron, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Gerry.
How old are you?
I am 12.
Okay, thank you for phoning us this morning. Rap music. We were talking about 50 Cent and his music, along with Ludacris and a couple of other people of that genre, has come under the spotlight and the microscope of the American Psychology Association's report. And they think that it gives a very bad impression, particularly of women and violence, sexual orientation of young men, educational ambition. In other words, there's nothing good to say about a lot of these guys.
Well, I've been listening to rap music basically since I was 4 or 5.
Since you were 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Who were you listening to when you were 4 and 5?
Oh, Eminem. I'm still listening to him now.
Yeah.
And like it didn't really have an effect on me. Like, I write rhymes now, like, have a rapper name. And
what did you like about Eminem? Let's go back to where you started off.
Like, I like the way, like, he puts things into perspective. Like, he talks about his own life and has nothing really to hide. And, like...
And he's white.
Yeah, and he's white. He's the only white
And you're
rapper.
white.
Yeah,
okay.
Obviously.
All right, so that makes sense to start with.
And he gives me, like, a role model and also.
And is he a good role model? Let's have a look at his life, you know, a dysfunctional childhood, bizarre relationship with his mother. He has a child, himself and the missus. Yeah, himself and his missus kind of have a sort of on-off relationship thing going. Mm-hmm. So what do you think that's good about him? What are the positive things about Eminem?
Well, the positive things, really, he got himself out there and he made himself the first white rapper, like.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he made himself that, and that's, like, a good impression, like get out there and do it. Like, just get out and do it. Like, and he says in one of his songs, like, it makes you want to just give up, but you got to search for you and try to find that inner strength. And so, like, it's good role model, like.
Okay, the complaints now about 50 Cent are mainly the way that he portrays women, right? That's one of the big complaints, and also the celebration of gun culture, and also in a way not the celebration, but he's furthering the separation of one community from another. In other words, the ghetto kids, the ghetto families. Poorer working class people are going to live separately under siege from the rest of the world, which is a really bad plan. Now, so that's why they don't like him in this report. Why would they like Eminem? What does he say that's good about women and about school and about guns and about the way you behave?
Like he says in most of the songs, like he doesn't want to do anything, like he doesn't want to put any of his family in danger, but like sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and like in his new song he says it just falls into one big brawl and we all get involved. And really, like he's not really he's not saying like I'm going to go out and sell a load of drugs now. I'm going to go around the corner and shoot this chap in the head. And he says in Criminal, what was it? He says a lot of people ask me stupid questions. I'm not going to say the word, sorry. And stupid questions, and what I say on record, or what I talk about on a record, that I'm gonna do in real life. And he says, if you believe that, I don't know, I guess I'm a criminal. And then he goes into his music and kind of raps about how he was brought up, and like talks about like if you say anything about his family, like he doesn't want to, but he kind of do something. Whether it's in music or he's gonna.
Well, you seem to be paying a lot of attention.
Well, I pay a lot of attention to my music, really, because I write rhymes, and I have my rapper name and my skill, like, is real support, because I recorded it.
Have you got something you could do for us now?
Well, yeah, I've been writing a rhyme, like...
Okay, off you go.
In school, I'm being honest, I'm not cool. Everybody calls me a self because I like to rap with my long white jeans and backwards cap. In school, just because I know the news, I come home with another bruise. Whose child did this? My mum would say, God, I wish they pay. But they won't pay, they still be evil, picking on the feeble. I would love to just turn around and go, back off, bully, you don't understand fully. You don't understand fully. And by the way, back off, bully, you don't understand fully. And by the way, get showered.
Well done.
Well, it's better than that, like, it's just a bit rare, so.
No, you're very good. For 12.
And,
for 12, buddy, you're doing very well.
Oh, like, I'm better than that, like, just...
You're doing very well.
I recorded a CD with me school.
Will you send it in to us, will you?
I will do.
Okay, I tell you what, I'm going to play something for you from the Eminem Hits album. I've got The Way I Am, My Name Is Stan, Lose Yourself, Shake That, Sing for the Moment, The Real Slim Shady, Little Toy Soldiers, Guilty Conscience, Just Lose It, When I'm Gone. What would you like?
Have you got The Way I Am?
Yep, okay, I'm going to play that for you.
Thanks very much.
Take it easy.
All right, bye.
He's good, wasn't he? Lisa, good morning and welcome back. How are you? We talked to you before, didn't we? Did we not?
No, I rang you before, but
now you're in trouble.
Back, I couldn't. Well, I don't know if you call it trouble, but there is.
I would call it trouble, actually.
Yeah, it's not funny now. That's one thing for sure. It's my 3.5-year-old daughter, Grace, beautiful little girl, but has a big problem with me, her mammy, with leaving my hair down, or I wouldn't be allowed to relax around Grace. There'd be no such thing now as me kicking off the slippers and putting the feet up on the couch.
Yeah, and how does she make this known?
It would start kind of as a tantrum, but then she'd say stuff like, I'm going to make myself sick. And
I'm going to make myself sick?
Yeah.
Because you're relaxing?
Yeah.
And would she identify the two things, you relaxing and her getting so distressed by this that she's going to make herself sick? Would she actually, say that?
Oh, yeah, she would, yeah.
And what would she say?
She would say, don't do that, that's not fair. And,
don't do that, don't sit down, that's not fair.
That's not fair. And shut up now is a new thing. But my 4-year-old daughter brought that new word home from work. But Grace would never say that unless I have the hair down or the feet up. And then I'll call the policeman on you, she'd say. But I'm laughing now, but it really isn't funny.
No, it isn't.
You know, it isn't, honestly. Even like I was telling you yesterday when I did call about this previously.
What do you do when she does this?
I just say, Grace, now that's not fair.
And you say it like that as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, rubbish.
No, I do. I'd say,
no, but that's useless, though.
You know, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Utterly useless.
Yeah.
And I bet you say it like that.
I do, and my husband now.
Grace, that's not fair.
It was it last Friday or the Friday before?
No, do you know the way that you need to be dealing with that?
Yeah.
You need to be extremely firm, a loud voice, and you need to impose your will upon the conversation. It should be one-sided, you to her. If there's any guff from her, you tell her to shut up herself, or she'll be staying in her bedroom for an hour.
Yeah.
And what does she absolutely love?
She loves her dolls.
Okay, and you tell her that you'll take her dolls and you'll throw them out if she's not good.
Yeah.
And when she starts crying and throwing herself on the floor, you let her do that.
Right.
And you don't go over and kiss and hug her.
Yeah.
I tell you, I have very recent experience of this. I went absolutely berserk over something last night in my house, right? And there was a certain amount of upset, not from Mrs. Ryan, I can tell you. She was there shouting, go, go, go. But there was bad messing, right? Yeah. Between the two youngest. And I went mad. Good old-fashioned mad.
Right. And
I said, if this isn't dealt with, I am going to, and I won't go into the details of it because it's not fair to give away too much.
I know, yeah.
But I threatened to take away something that's very, very dear to the hearts of these two children. And that's what you've got to do. And I have pals, right, and they still have, and they're charming children now, they're older.
Right.
But this couple would constantly in this voice go, Sean, don't do that.
No, but I would now, Gerry, honestly. Like,
don't do that.
Yeah,
and your man would just laugh at them.
Yeah.
You have to be firm. And you also have to practice it. You have to go away now and you have to say to yourself, how do I do it? How do I have more authority in my voice? And you have to be very defined when you speak. You have to say, I am having a rest. Right. And I'm allowed to do that because I'm your mother and I'm in charge. And you are not to speak. And if you speak, you will be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Now, you can sit down here with me or you can go upstairs. And if you say anything to annoy Mammy, I will take your dolls away from you for 2 days. Or whatever you think the sanction is. That's appropriate. But if you allow her to interrupt you when you're speaking, to control you in the sense that you're afraid to raise your voice to her, or that you feel that having given out to her, you've got to rush to her and comfort her because she's crying, you've had it, Mrs.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Because it is now, I was actually saying again to the girl on the phone earlier, that one night I was going out. Now, she doesn't have a problem with Mammy going out, you know, she doesn't mind that at all. But
is there a daddy on the premises?
Oh, there is, of course, yeah, and she adores her daddy and everything. And that's another thing as well, like, my husband Carl will come home every night.
He can do anything, can he?
Oh, he can, even when it comes to story time, like at night time.
Well, you know, daughters and their daddies.
But my son has a lovely big double bed. So what we normally do is the 5 of us go down to the bedroom and maybe we'd all get into the bed. But if it's my turn to read the story, I have to sit on the stool in the bed.
Yeah, but why are you doing that, though?
Yeah, but you see, she does say she's going to get sick, and then the whole house is...
baloney, Mrs. That's baloney.
But I'd be afraid, really, that would I not be messing with her head if she's saying she's making...
No, sorry. Would you listen. She's messing with your head.
Yeah, she is now. That's the
right.
Thing. She actually tried to lock me into the ensuite.
Oh, Christ. No. This is to stop today, right?
Right, okay.
You are not sitting on stools, right?
Yeah.
You are not continually dancing to her tune. You are Mammy. You are in charge, and you're doing her no favours by doing it this way.
Yeah,
you've got to, you know, in the rest of your life, are you this willing and malleable and pliable, are you?
Oh, I wouldn't be, no, I would.
If your husband told you to sit on a stool, what would you do?
I'd be telling him.
Yeah, exactly,
but
right.
This is what I was going to say earlier on. It wasn't last Friday night, the Friday night before, she really went to town in the sitting room because I put my feet up. And I said, no, Grace, that's it now. I'm lying down, end of story. And she got up and started pulling at the curtains and blah, blah. And Colin was there, my husband, and he said, oh, this is enough, and put her in her room. She kicked the door. She done everything possible to get out.
Yeah, but you've got to threaten her.
I said, oh, here, that's enough.
No, but you have to threaten her with a sanction that she understands. And that sanction, it sounds like dollies. Dollies are going to be taken away, and they're not coming back until you're good.
Yeah.
And then just lock her in the room. Let her stay there.
Yeah.
And
that wouldn't be bad parenting, would it? Locking her in the room.
No, you don't actually lock her in the room. She's locked herself in the room. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you have the ISPCC calling out to you if you actually lock her in the room.
I know.
No. Fintan is on the line, and let's see if he agrees. Fintan, good morning.
Morning, Gerry. How are you?
Well, I'm very well, thank you for asking. Am I being too harsh?
Absolutely not, Gerry. I mean, kids these days are led away with too much in the house.
Yeah.
And the roost. We had a problem with our child. She wasn't eating her breakfast in the morning. She was staying there for about 3/4 of an hour, just sitting there.
Oh, I know that one, yeah.
Well, the breakfast ended up on her head. That's it, full stop. And she didn't do it after that, and she hasn't done it since.
The breakfast ended up on her head?
Absolutely.
How did it get there?
The wife just put it over her head.
You have that.
She was wearing the breakfast, and she didn't do it after that.
Yeah.
So
and did you accompany that with the words, there's where your breakfast is going every morning if you don't eat it?
Absolutely.
Right, well, there you are.
And it hasn't happened since. I mean, you just have to be straight with them and talk up to them and don't let them domineer you.
Yeah, but you see, my big problem with Grace is great in that sense. Like, she'll eat, she'll tidy,
That's great. And do you know something? And Lisa, and applaud her for that and praise her for that.
But it's only with me. It's actually, I feel that maybe it's a jealousy thing because when
no, it's not. It's part. It's love. Children are very controlling. I mean, their instinct is to be controlling because their instinct is to survive. Yeah. So they can do it in several ways. One, they can be very appealing, right? And little babies do that. But what do little babies also do that had you run ragged, right?
Yeah,
they cry, they scream, they howl, and you can't but answer. Now, that's fine when it's an infant. That's okay. But not at 3. On Saturday, the entire nation's eyes were focused on one place, one geographical destination, Croke Park, and for a very good reason. One of the key players who brought such joy to us all as Ireland trounced England was the man with the number 9 jersey on his back, Peter Stringer, the only gay player in the Irish pack.
Am I on?
You will be in a minute. Peter, of course, we'll discuss that in a moment. Peter's been out of action for Ireland and France, and I think it was noticeable. I'm not being ungracious, I think, in saying that. And there was a lot of relief to see him back playing with his captain for his country in his position as Ireland's scrum half. Back to his schoolboy rugby days, he was known as Pistol Pete. That's a gay reference, isn't it? It is. And nowadays, all 5'7" of his Munster muscle has helped Ireland and Munster secure victories in stadiums across the world. So, those are the facts. Stringer, scrum half for Ireland, a key player in the Munster team, and a man who's a terrier on the pitch. And here's a fact maybe that you don't hear Hookie or indeed any of the other panel refer to. Astonishing. And I have to say, I was knocked out by this when I heard it, that there were 2 of you, to be honest, on the team. Peter suffers from asthma, and he's not alone in the Irish squad because Ronan O'Gara, another key member of Ireland's winning team, is also an asthma sufferer. So what? I hear you say, well, how do they manage to perform at the level that they do? All will be revealed. Today, the 2 lads are lending their support to Asthma Control Month, which kicks off tomorrow in 85 venues across the country. And to tell us a bit more about the campaign is the man himself, Peter Stringer. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Gerry. How are you?
I'm very well. I sound a bit asthmatic myself today for a selection of reasons. And we'll first of all congratulate you on the return to form.
Thank you.
And indeed on the extraordinary victory. And it's one of those great ones that can be genuinely written into the history books as a complete victory, because there was no sort of, I mean, the scoreline was so fantastically, the differential was huge. So you must be feeling very good.
Feeling, extremely good. I think I think for me personally, missing the French game was a massive disappointment. And
where were you when the game was on?
I was watching it just kind of in and around the subs area, up kind of halfway up the Hogan stand, the lower, and just remember sitting next to Brian, and Jamie Heaslip was alongside us as well, who was also brought into the squad as cover. But just being around and feeling that kind of detachment from the squad and not really being a part of it, not being a part of the warm-up, and even though we were wandering around inside in the dressing room beforehand with the lads, you know, getting that sense of, geez, you know, they're actually going to go out there and be able to make a difference to what happens on the pitch, whereas you're sitting in the stand and you're thinking, God, you know, you just really, really want to be out there. But, you know, to be able to get out and to face England, to get onto Croke Park was just something special, and it's one of the greatest days I've ever experienced.
Well, it was quite extraordinary for you and Brian to both be absent in the French match, and it's very difficult to think, you know, because you continue to play and these guys are not only your colleagues but they're your friends. Do you think if both of you had been out there against France it would have made a difference?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think you know, we've got to a stage where we have a talented squad of 30-35 guys, and you try and produce fellas to step into international tough tests, and I think we've got a squad of guys who can do that at any stage, and the experience is there, and to kind of place the onus on two guys, like you say, to come into a side and to make a difference. It's difficult to know, but you know, certainly I think Brian's experience and his leadership, I think was definitely missed on the day, and to have a guy like him around, you know, it's hard for me to say. Certainly in my position, when
what was his disposition? What? I mean, I think I know of you. I think you keep your counsel quite well. I don't think you're not very hysterical. Brian's not hysterical either, but what was he like sitting watching France?
Yeah, it was...
And bloody France with their huge levels of fitness and their stamina up till the last 30 seconds. Those bastards will keep going.
Yeah, I think, you know, the first half was, you know, we were looking on, and I think we were actually lucky enough to go in at half time with the scoreline we had, and that France maybe could have scored a few more tries, but in the second half I think we played all the rugby, you know, and the French, typical French, just
what about Ronan getting the try?
Yeah, fantastic. I think you know, Dave Wallace as well, and you look at that, did really well for Ronan's try, and Ronan's kicking all year has been remarkable.
Wallace's setup was absolutely gorgeous, and you know, it really annoyed me. I don't know, it wasn't Hooky, I don't know who it was, but somebody said, well, you won't see that in any of the coaching handbooks, and I was going, it's a try. That's all that matters. It was set up by Wallace. He legged it off to the left, yeah, and then just beautifully, you know, comfortably scored this wonderful try. I mean, there is no such thing as, you know, a try that isn't in the handbook, is there?
I don't know. You see, credit where credit's due. It's, yeah, you know, Dave did really well. It's, you know, your instinct plays a massive part in these days, and it's so tough when you go out onto a test game and you try and reproduce what you have done on the training pitch. You know, it's in front of 80,000 people in a pressure situation. And
what was it like when you walked out against England?
Yeah,
what did it feel like?
I think it's like something I've never experienced before. I think going out onto the pitch, we knew that, you know, I think there was so much more at stake than just a rugby game, and I think all week and in the months leading up to this game, I think the media played a huge part in building it up and into being so much more than a rugby game. And I think we tried to focus primarily on going out to beat England and doing the things we'd learned during the week in basic rugby training, rather than the history of things that went on before. Obviously it was a massive part of what had gone on in years before, and that people's experiences of that and people were very affected by it. But I think for the team and the squad, it was very important that we solely realised that it was a rugby game at stake, and we had to go out and produce what we had done week in, week out.
Well, George made a good point. You seem to be referring to him a lot now this morning. But Hook said, you know, maybe we in the media were responsible for working up the frenzy regarding whether the fans would take this as a political or a cultural clash as opposed to a sporting encounter. And he said, we should really ask ourselves as commentators in the media, what were we doing? Did we underestimate the fans? Did we underestimate the Irish people? And I think he's got a very good point. I think a lot of us focused on the wrong end of the stick. What was at stake was rugby. That's what was at stake, nothing else.
Yeah, I think the squad were fully aware of it. And I think external pressure was coming from probably media and the public as a result of that. And I think once we were kind of in our hotel, in our camp atmosphere, we were kind of feet were firmly placed on the ground with regard to what was at stake and trying to go out and beat England for a fourth year in a row and trying to win a championship at the end of the day and a triple crown, and they were the goals in the backs of our mind, and that's all that mattered.
It seemed to me, now obviously you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that rugby is a contact sport. It's always physical, but it seemed that against England it was intensely physical.
Yeah, it always is, I think.
And I mean that in a correct way. I didn't see much foul play, but I wouldn't have liked to have been out on the pitch.
Yeah, I think just talking to the lads at the end of the game, I think when England had the ball, maybe the last few minutes, guys got a real sense of enjoyment in defending, and you saw guys wanting to make tackles, you saw guys getting up and nearly pushing each other out of the way to tackle the next Englishman, and I think it was a great sense of pride, and I think making sure that they weren't going to cross our line towards the end of the game, and the enjoyment factor that guys got from doing that, it nearly was a sense of kind of, let them have the ball and see what they can do towards the end. It was just, there was so much trust and belief within the team on the pitch at the end of the day that there was so much enjoyment that we got from just defending and making tackles that it was a great sense of.
What was the tension like for you? And because the scrums were being constructed and deconstructed by the referee, he seemed to be obsessed with getting the engagement right. Although I loved the accent. Don't back, everybody back. Where was he from?
He's a French. I don't know what part of France he's from, but he
sounded South African to me, but he was absolutely determined that the scrums were going to be formed properly, that the engagement would work out well, and that everything would be done according to the book, which meant that the thing seemed to go on a bit longer than it normally does. So you're standing there, the bride, while the groom is getting to terms of what he's about to do. What does that feel like when the two teams, they engage, the pushing, the heaving starts, and you don't know where it's going to go? Is a penalty going to come out of this, or what? Or am I going to get the ball?
You're just thinking, first of all, you're glad you're not in the middle of it and you're just standing putting the ball into the scrum, but you're thinking, I suppose, the way the game has gone now with the scrums, there's been, a new law brought in with regard to the timing of the engagement, I think safety purposes, and they have to touch each other's shoulders before the engagement, so there is a bit of a delay there now. I think, generally you just like to get the ball in and get it out and start playing again. And
where are you looking?
You're trying to look at your own back line, you're trying to see where the English defence is.
You're going to the ball. Where's the ball going to come?
Yeah, you got it.
And who am I going to give it to?
Yeah, it's difficult because you're looking at the ball when it's going back through the scrum, but you're also trying to look at the English side, where the defence is, where their winger is standing, whether he's in the back line or whether he's back defending a kick. Or you got to kind of have basically the vision to see where he is and to see where the next opportunity is going to come from. So whether it be to give it to the out half, or whether it be to kick or to run or whatever. So it's split second time. I think you've got to look and try and make a judgment as best you can in the heat of the moment, while still trying to look into the scrum and see where the ball is. And
are you predictable? Do you think the other guys know what you're going to do?
I don't think so. I think that's kind of the aim of any scrum half. You try and keep guys guessing, and I think,
have you got deliberate, techniques for, I'll 3, I'll go left, 4, I'll go right?
We try and analyse the numbers. You try and look and see, I think, I suppose the classic one is the Heineken Cup final, and just having a look up and see where the defence is and try and not to make the opposition aware that you are analysing their defence as best you can. And I think as soon as you're trying to start selling that, as soon as they start to see what you're doing, then they can react accordingly. But from that point of view, it's just about trying to look out the corner of your eye, keep an eye on the ball, keep an eye on where your out half is, and try and do 3 or 4 things at once, and you get used to it.
Peter Stringer, good luck with the asthma and the campaign. If you want to find out more, I think chemists all over Ireland will have all the details. Of course, you've got, what's the Fianna Fáil phrase, a lot done, more to do, or whatever it is.
Whatever.
And I think in terms of Six Nations, you missed the Grand Slam, okay, right? Some will say that's because yourself and Brian weren't there, but that's now history and it's irrelevant, so no point in going over that now. But there is a very strong possibility that you may take the title.
There is, yeah. We've
or is that jinxing it? Am I the Richard Harrison?
No, not at all. I think we got to be positive about it and look towards the next 2 games, and just with the standards, I suppose we've set ourselves to look to go and win the title, and even if it's not the Grand Slam, we still have an opportunity of winning the championship. So 2 big games to go, 2 away games in Scotland and Italy, and hopefully we'll come away with 2 victories. And
who are you more worried about?
At the moment, we're more worried about Scotland because it's our next game, and really not really looking beyond that. So as the cliche goes, 1 game at a time. But away in Murrayfield it's never an easy game, and I think Ireland have gone there for years and have fallen short. But I think with the confidence, hopefully in the squad these days, that we can go there and look for a victory.
Okay. In the words of Captain Picard from Star Trek, make it so. The website, by the way, is www.asthmacontroltest.ie. That's www.asthmacontroltest.ie. Peter Stringer, thank you for talking to us
this morning.
Gerry. The very best of luck with the next 2 games. Cariosa, is that how do you pronounce it? Carissa. Good morning, Carissa. How are you?
Good morning, Gerry. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome. You sent us an email. You live in Perth, and you're originally from Finglas.
That's correct.
Have you kids?
I do. I have 3 beautiful kids, Kieran, Aaron and Aoife.
And you've lived in Perth for 13 years?
Yes, since 1994.
Now, I'll just have a little look at your email. Over the last 13 years, we've always had a St. Patrick's Day parade in Fremantle.
That's correct, yeah.
That's down under in Australia, in case anybody's interested, where my friend here is phoning from. This year, the committee cancelled the parade due to too much paperwork having to be lodged with the police. What?
That's correct.
It's
all got to do with insurance and everything like that. So they've actually cancelled the parade because there wasn't enough input into the parade. There was too much paperwork to be lodged with security, insurances, public liability. So the parade was cancelled.
Well, that's the kind of thing that's happening here as well.
I know, but it's pretty sad when you're an expatriate from Ireland, and I love my country as much as most people in Ireland do, and this is the one day of the year that we look forward to.
When you really go green.
We go greener than the Irish go greener, trust me. We are green.
Sorry, I've seen the photographs. It's Leprechaun Central. It's Shamrock City.
I know, my mother only sent me over a huge parcel the other day with every sort of Irish memorabilia, buntings, you name it, and I have them.
So what are you going to do?
Well, basically what happened was there's another part there's a tavern that we also frequent in. It's called J.B. O'Reilly's in West Leaderville. This is another huge major event for Irish people in Perth. It's absolutely astronomical. It's a family day. It's everything that you would wish for your family. There's Irish music, there's banter, there's dancing, there's you name it, and we have it. There's a big full Irish breakfast, the black and white pudding, sausages, everything. The owner of this particular pub, Mr. Paul North, goes to huge expenses every year.
Don't tell me that's cancelled as well, is it?
They have cancelled this venue because the town of Cambridge, which actually is the area, the catchment which J.B. O'Reilly's is in, has said that they will not allow him to have more than 200 patrons in this area at any one time. Now, for the last 10 years, we have had 1,000-odd people in this establishment, and we have had, the crack is only 90. They have now said 200, so the owner has said, I cannot open with 200 people because the other 800 people or 600 people that are going to be standing outside trying to get in, it's going to be sheer bedlam. So he said for safety reasons, he's left with no choice.
So you have nothing, now you've nothing.
We have absolutely
So you'll be
nothing.
left sitting in front of a video of the Irish parade,
I'll be watching
wearing your
Riverdance.
leprechaun. You'll be watching Riverdance.
I'll be watching Riverdance, and I'll probably be listening to the Toll Trolls. That's about the extent of it. We have absolutely nothing, and it's making headline news today. It's on every.
Well, what can we do to help?
Channel.
What can we do to help?
I want people in Ireland to send emails to Australia, to Channel 7, to Channel 9, to Channel 10 in Perth, Western Australia, to the town of Cambridge, asking them to please, please, please reconsider. Just reconsider. For all of us, I was just home recently myself at Christmas. I spent 6 weeks at home, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I know the heart that the Irish people have, and especially being an expat, I know how much people have Ireland at heart. And I want them to help us fight this, because we need our St. Patrick's Day here in Perth, West.
What time is it where you are at the moment?
At the moment, it's just a little after 6 o'clock in the evening.
6 o'clock in the evening. Okay.
And it's Thursday evening, 6 o'clock Thursday evening.
We should really try and hook up maybe one of the stations over there. Wouldn't that be an idea?
Well, yes, it was actually on Talkback Radio yesterday, a guy by the name of Harris Sattler. He's on 6PR, and he spoke to the owner of the pub, which that's how we all found out about it, that he was cancelling because of the fact it's just, there's so much devastation here, because the other places that you could have St. Patrick's Day aren't really family-friendly orientated, so you wouldn't necessarily bring your children along. And, you know, this guy that I know from years and years back, he has put so much effort and time into this St. Patrick's Day. It's like, and it's not a money thing. It's, he himself is from Wexford, and he just loves the day himself, like we all do. Thank you for taking my call.
Bye. Denise, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Gerry. How are you?
Good, welcome. Well, you were listening. What do you think?
I was listening to RT1 coming home one day after work, and it was a lunchtime programme, and they had a guy, I can't remember his name, but they had a guy on. And because of all that's happened, he said, the way the world is going and technology is going for our children, we as parents have a parental right to listen and have control over what we give them. You give them a mobile phone, you have parental control, you have to have parental control over that. Same as computers, what they're doing on their computers. But
I think that's a good point. You know, you wouldn't think there was anything wrong with going to a computer and checking what your son or daughter had just been looking at on the internet. And if it turned out to be doing it with donkeys.com, you'd be interested. Yeah, and you'd want to talk to them about it.
Yeah, so as a parent, our skills are changing. Our parent skills have to change with technology. So you have the right, and if you're giving them a phone, the way to go is, there's the mobile phone, on the condition that I have the right to see what's going on now and again. You just have to. It's the way the world is
that'll also be an interesting moment, because if the child goes, well, then I don't want a mobile phone, then you can just don't fool yourself that the coast is completely clear. There's something going on.
Yeah.
That person does not want you to know about. Now, do you know what? There should be things going on that you don't know about. That's vital to growing up.
Yeah.
But there are things that can happen that are life threatening, that are dangerous, that are nefarious in terms of the influence or the problems that can arise out of becoming involved.
The outside control.
And we need to be
now
there.
Have access. Yeah. Same as a diary. Great, they can have a little diary. But a diary is lovely. It's a great little thing. But there was no outside person coming into that diary. Do you understand what I mean? There was no outside control getting into that diary, having access to the diary.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, when you wrote the diary, no matter how weird the stuff was in it, it wasn't communicating with any other party except the writer.
Yes, that's all I have to say.
No, well, good. Well spoken too. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning to you. That's Denise. Ian, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry. How are you?
Very good. Ian, you're 20 years of age, listening to this, probably a little closer to the sensitivity of the issue maybe than some of us this morning.
Yeah, slightly. Well, I just think the first caller, I can't remember her name, but...
Mammy.
Yeah, Mammy. I was going to say, I just don't... if she's trying to build up a relationship, especially at that age of, trust, basically, the first thing, when she took the phone off him, she went outside the door and she went through the messages, and then she went back straight away going, why is this locked, I think that, he's going to, he's not going to trust her with anything, really, any information. What was I going to say? So he's not like now.
I think that's an interesting point, and I think you're right. I think, but let me put this to you. What you say is absolutely correct, and those moments are the kind of things that break down the trust bridge faster than anything else. However, maybe that's irrelevant. Maybe that doesn't matter during that difficult and vulnerable time. Maybe you just have to accept that you're not your child's friend at that time, and that you are obliged to monitor the world that they live in.
Well, she said that, other than that, she had no worries. I think the only thing that's killing her is that she wanted to get in, she couldn't get in, and it's possibly just an element of nosiness, and she just wants to kind of,
I think she was sort of shocked that there was no assistance from the phone companies, that the phone companies were saying, well, I don't care whether he's 8 or 18 or whatever, you're not getting into his phone.
Well, I suppose that's fair, but there's no legislation there.
No, there isn't. No, you're absolutely right. But did you have a phone when you were 14?
No, my parents didn't allow me to have a phone till I was 16.
Okay, and when you were 16, would they ever have even considered looking at what was on it?
No, they would have known better.
Would they have liked to?
I don't. I'm sure they possibly might have.
Yeah.
But,
so, given that, right? Let's accept that, and you'll be like this yourself when you have children. You will be curious. Everybody thinks it's going to change. It doesn't. I can tell you that. Every generation thinks the generation above them is stupid. If your parents had said to you, "Look, Ian, we'd like to look at your phone. Is that okay? Would you mind?" What would you have said?
I probably would have said, yeah. It's personal. It's your personal interaction with your friend. It's basically, it's just, to put it in context, it should be just like you sitting down with your friends for a cup of tea or something, having a conversation, and your mother sitting in the middle of it. Do you know what I mean? Listening to what you're saying, and you're obviously not going to feel comfortable in saying what you want to say, and especially at the age of 14. It's a time when, they're talking about kissing girls and they're talking about doing this and doing that, and it's all relatively harmless fun, I think that the idea of, monitoring the internet, that's fair because, anybody can be on the internet, whereas, not everybody can have your mobile phone number, that kind of way.
Well, look, the recent events of the 14-year-old boy, and his mother discovered that he was being groomed, it would seem. That's the way the investigation seems to be going. It would seem that he was being groomed by mobile phone, by men who wanted to have sex with this 14-year-old boy. They were passing him around like a rag doll. You would want to know about that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. No,
and she found out by looking at his messages.
Yeah, that is fair.
It's trying to find the balance between the two, isn't it?
Like the second caller there with going through the phone bill, I thought that was a very good idea because it's not actually invading the privacy, and it's monitoring their activity of phone calls,
And if you were really, really worried, there would be enough information there,
Yeah, exactly. What was it? I think, if there's long phone calls going on after midnight or things like that, that's something to be worried about then, all right. My only worry with that would be that, the mother would pick up the phone, dial the number, and she'd get through to the friend, and mortify the poor lad, or if it was his prospective girlfriend or something. So that
I think probably, Ian, you're young enough to remember that regardless, there's still plenty of moments for mortification with your parents. It doesn't have to involve dialing somebody else's number. All right, listen, thank you for your opinions this morning, and good morning to you. Breda, good morning to you. Welcome. How are you?
Fine, thanks, yeah. I was listening to the other lady about having a strict upbringing.
Oh, this was My Mean Mother.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm in the process of just sorting out lots of bits and pieces of paper, and as I was listening, I came across this poem.
Okay.
And the poem is called A Mother's Love.
Let's hear it.
Someday when my children are old enough to understand, I will tell them, I loved you enough to ask you about where you were going, with whom, and what time you would get home. I loved you enough to insist that you buy a bike that we could afford to give you with your own money. I loved you enough to make you return a Milky Way with a bite out of it and to confess I stole this. I loved you enough to let you see hurt, disappointment, disgust and tears in my eyes. I loved you enough to admit I was wrong and ask you for forgiveness. I loved you enough to let you stumble, fall and hurt. But most of all, I loved you enough to say no when you hated me for it. That was the hardest part of all. That's it.
That's good. Where did you find that?
I've got 3 children myself. Well, they're teenagers now, and obviously somebody gave it to me because I always tell my kids I've never lived with teenagers before, so it's all new to me.
Okay, well,
you know. But I remember actually listening to your program. It was in 1991 and 1992, and the Spice Girls came to Dublin.
Yeah.
And I always reckon that was a defining moment.
It was the same discussion as we're having today.
Yeah, because I remember little girls as young as 4 being taken to the point and being dressed as one of the Spices.
Yeah.
And I always look back and think that was the defining moment, because I always remember afterwards when you went to Dunnes Stores to buy a vest or something like that, you couldn't get it. It was all little crop tops and all the rest of it. But what I also find is about girls and boys, the differences. I have 2 sons and a daughter. And I always find when everybody talks about the boys, it's always about what are they doing, what sport are they doing, where are they at college, what are they doing at school. But with the girls, it's all about the looks.
She's gorgeous.
Yep, she's gorgeous. I used to say to my daughter, people would see her and say, God, she's gorgeous. And, you know, she's beautiful and she's this and she's that.
Well, that's because we still live with the ghost of a good-looking girl got a husband.
Right.
A plain-looking girl got a career. A boy with intelligence and qualifications and the networking that comes as a result of playing sport, he also had a future to give to the good-looking girl. Now, God only knows, I've just described a hell on earth, but the ghost is still there in our culture. There's no doubt about that.
But the girls need to be valued for their achievements as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think they are. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. We now live in a world where, from an educational point of view, girls are completely outstripping boys, and they're also entering in greater numbers the main professions. And I think this year we'll see a greater number of girls enter university than ever before, outstripping the boys for the 2nd or 3rd year in a row. So I think it's foolish to imagine, you know, that we still live in an era or a time when girls are challenged from a career or an education point of view. And the glass ceiling in many industries and businesses is now defined, I believe, by what women want to do, not what they're allowed to.
But still, I feel that girls have to have both now. They have to be intelligent and good-looking.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, the boys can get away.
But who, I'll leave you with this thought before we take the break and leave. Who makes that so?
Well, I actually think it's women doing it to women a lot of the time.
Thank you and good morning.
I really do. Thanks, Gerry.
Judith, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for your email, Judith.
No problem. You probably thought it was some batty woman in Limerick. I was so upset at the time.
No, I didn't think it was a batty woman in Limerick. And obviously you were very upset last night listening to the news regarding the young 17-year-old girl who's currently in the care of the HSE. They have said, OK, you're pregnant, you want to have an abortion, we're not allowing that, we're not allowing you to leave the state, and we're going to seek to have our decision on this issue implemented by requesting the guards to prevent you from leaving the state. She's now gone to court to say that she has a right under the Constitution to freedom of travel, and she wants them to make a ruling that will enable her to go to the United Kingdom and have an abortion, given that this baby will not, apparently the condition is so fatal, will not actually live.
Yes, well, Gerry, I just can't understand why in the first place it's made public again, and I still can't see why it's her choice. The situation she's in is cruel. Not to mind, everybody's getting on the bandwagon over this now again.
Well, she's not 18, first of all. Now, don't jump on me now. I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, right? Okay.
Okay.
Because I can tell you're passionate about this. She's not 18. Okay, so even though she probably, as I said earlier on, she's probably experienced more in her life than most of us would in her 17 years than most of us would in our entire adult life. So the HSE are within their rights to conduct their affairs in this way. Do you believe that what they're doing is lacking in humanitarian?
Totally. No compassion whatsoever. No compassion. I mean, the girl is going through what she has to. I can't understand, first of all, why she can't have an abortion here. This country
well, we
just
know
why,
because it's illegal. Yes. It's illegal in this country.
It's illegal, which it shouldn't be, but of course everybody, another bandwagon job. But it's just, I mean, each case is separate. Each case is different. Don't get me wrong, I'm not for abortion across the board. I'm more, in a situation, each situation is totally different. And I think it should be taken as that. But just driving home last night and to hear this on the news, the girl is going through so much and now everybody is on about it again. It's just so upsetting. I mean, I said there last night in my email, I have a 14-year-old daughter who I'm very proud of, absolutely thrilled with my daughter. And who knows, in the same circumstance, would I have had to make the same decision as this girl?
Well, you see, the decision that a mother or a father would make in relation to a problem like this can be quite different from the decision that a court will make.
But that's what I'm
saying,
Now,
there's
Gerry.
the big question. Should the decision that an informed, caring, responsible parent would make in relation to their child, should that differ substantially from the decision that a court would make? Now, the court is going to have to decide what happens in this case. They are going to have to decide, has she a right to travel, an unqualified right? Now, my legal understanding of the issue regarding your ability to travel in and out of the state in this country, as the Constitution guarantees, is that it's a freedom. Is that the same as a right?
Well,
No, it's not. Freedom is a qualified right. So in other words, if you, for instance, have committed a crime, you're not going to be able to travel. If you're underage, you're not going to be able to travel. If you're trying to take a child out of the country without the permission of the other parent, you're not going to be able to. There's a whole load of things that will stop you travelling in this country. But we still have freedom of travel. So can you imagine the decision? You were literally asking the court to be a parent to this child.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. And there's no way, right, whichever way the court goes, there's no way that can actually think or feel the same as a parent would in this situation for their child. And, I mean, at the end of the day, the child isn't going to live anyway, Gerry. So I can't understand why this poor girl has all this. She has enough on her plate as it is, that now we have the whole media involved again.
I know, it's unfortunate that these things have to be played out.
Gerry, I really feel this
but remember though,
backwards.
she has taken legal action. I mean, she's obviously a smart, experienced, probably quite adult young woman at this stage of her life.
But she shouldn't have had to take that step, Gerry.
Well, what could she do though? We have to have laws though. We have to.
Yes, I know, but she should have been just allowed. That was her decision. She should have just been allowed. I mean, for goodness sake, she was leaving the country. It wasn't as if she was trying to do it here. I mean, I just can't.
But she's in the care of the HSE, for instance.
I know, yes, it seems to be a major problem.
But if she was leaving the country to go and live with a potential risk in the UK, say for instance she was going over to visit, and I'm not saying she has anybody in her family or anybody in her immediate experience who might be a risk to her, but say there was a man who was going to rape her or beat her, and that he had a known track record of sexual violence or domestic violence, and she was heading off to live with him, say in the United Kingdom. Would you be happy if the HSE came back and said, well, do you know something? It's her right to do it. She's crying down there in the front room and she's upset. We'll have to let her go. It's breaking her heart.
Oh, Gerry, of course not. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying...
No, but so in other words, you have to have rules and regulations.
Agreed, Gerry. You're really going devil's advocate here, aren't you?
No, but I mean, when do you have the rules and when do you not have rules?
Oh, Gerry, in this case, can you not imagine what that child is going through? And to have to go to court now to actually justify what she's doing?
No, I can't. Obviously, I can't imagine.
No, it's horrible, Gerry. This country is going backwards, not forwards.
So you say let her go?
Of course, let her go, for goodness sake.
So you know who's going to have to decide that? The court.
The court,
Now, when the court decide that, that's a precedent.
Right.
That means somebody else comes along and says, look, the 17-year-old, she got to go, why can't I? Oh, well, she got to go because... Why did she get to go? Well, because we were asked to, and pressure, and no, but actually we don't succumb to pressure because we're independent, we're the judiciary, we're making, what are they going to take into account? They are going to take into account, first of all, the right to life of the child in her womb. Okay, that issue has to be thought about. 2, is she, for instance, possibly suicidal? Okay, is there a threat to her own life? They're going to have to look once again at this issue regarding your right to travel or not. Is it just a freedom or is it an absolute right? And there's a selection of things that they're going to have to decide them really quickly. Then having decided them, they are going to have to stand over it when somebody else comes along and says, I want to go as well.
I totally understand. I mean, I don't, as I said to you, I'm going to say one thing. I still don't see the point in her having to leave the country to have it. Of course, that's a law that'll have to be changed. But what you said there, I mean, isn't it really going beyond the pale to say that a girl in this position would have to be suicidal to have to leave for this?
That's what the country decided. That's what we decided here in this country.
That's absolute drivel, Gerry. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's just so upsetting. I sat down with my daughter last night and I told her...
What did your daughter think?
Oh, she was horrified. I mean, I started crying because I was so mad coming home in the car, and then I just sat down and I cried at the sheer injustice of it all. I mean, I was literally, as you can imagine, you've children yourself, sitting there thinking, my God, please don't ever put me in this position with my own daughter. But I mean, if this was my daughter, I would be I would be taking her out of the country. Of course I would, Gerry.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this thought, and I know that we probably have a lot of people in various different campaign backrooms listening to this programme. They listen to the news, they'll be listening to a whole selection of radio stations, watching television output, reading newspapers. Which politician with the big rosette on his or her lapel will have the bottle to speak about this today?
Oh, interesting, yes.
Who will have the bottle to speak about this very real issue today? I will stake my breakfast roll on it, that nobody will say anything. Well, I suppose McDougall has already said something, and what he said was appropriate. Mary, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry.
Welcome. Well, you were listening to Judith.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm actually quite nervous now, so, I actually have been through this myself.
Have you?
Now, I gave birth to a child that I knew was going to die.
Had it the same disorder as this little baby has?
No, he had Potter's syndrome. His kidneys failed, and due to that, his lungs wouldn't develop.
And did you know that this was going to happen when you were pregnant?
I was told 6 months.
And what did they say to you, Mary?
I went for my scan myself because I didn't have much support from my partner at the time. And they just told me there was a problem with the baby's kidneys, the girl that was scanning me. And then they brought me down and told me that, the baby would have to have dialysis.
Yeah.
And then they brought me into hospital, and then they did scans, and then they said that he wasn't going to survive outside the room. He might die, when I was giving birth. But he lived for 3.5 hours.
And did you go full term?
I went full term with him.
And he lived for 3.5 hours?
Yeah.
So exactly as they predicted happened?
It did. Well, I was actually...
And what was that experience like for you?
It was just... This is bringing it all back to me, It's just traumatic, really. And my heart goes out to that girl.
Now, I'm going to say something to you that will be very difficult for you to deal with. But there will be people thinking it.
Yeah.
By not having an abortion, at least you had the 3.5 hours with your child.
I did, and I am so happy to have had that. I've got photographs and I've got memories of him and everything.
So if you'd had an abortion, you wouldn't have had that experience?
I wouldn't. And at the time, I didn't want to. If I had been given the option, I wouldn't have. I'm a parent myself. I have a 15-year-old daughter.
So do you believe this girl should have the abortion then?
If she wants that, I think she should be allowed to do it. Yeah. The girl is only 17 years of age.
Yeah.
And I think,
going through hell, I would say.
She's a teenager myself.
How old were you when you experienced
I had my daughter when I was 22. Okay. And I went through it myself. And I had to go through it again. I was with somebody, but he wasn't very supportive. And I really had to go through all this again on my own. Now, I'm older and I'm wiser, but I really think that poor girl should be allowed to go over. I think it's disgraceful.
Okay, thank you for that. You're very brave to have phoned us, by the way, Mary. Isn't she, Judith?
Very, very brave. Very brave.
And the thing about it is, it affects everybody else around. My daughter now is 15 and she still has a little, it's just traumatic. That was my decision to go through with it. And I really think that it's disgraceful that people have a say in what goes on in that girl's life.
I totally agree.
The child is going to die, okay? And they say the child isn't going to have any pain and whatever. They do, because my little baby went through a lot of pain. When I had him, I see the pain he went through. But it's her decision to go over. She should be allowed to do it. Who has the right,
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. Good morning to you. Judith, thank you for raising the issue.
Gerry.
Good morning to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well done.